Well, it seems that the PGA sides are no match for the might of the FAWNL. Yes, welcome along to this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat. My name is Chris Gadsby. I'm here every Thursday at 6 p.m, bringing you the very latest from the third and fourth tiers of women's football here in England. This is the show dedicated to the FAWNL and the 72 teams within it. And in the week where we found out just how the PGA sides would stand up against the FAWNL ones in the plate preliminary round, it's the FAWNL sides that have come out on top, but more on that later. Let's start. We've got a fair amount to go through this week. Yes, we've had a reduced league programme, but we've got those cup games as well to go through. Plus, we have the midweek games to look ahead to as well. So we've got two full programmes minus one game of fixtures to look ahead to and plenty to look back on. But we will start with the news, and there's a few bits so far this week. We're going to start with London Seaward. It came out last week between recording the show and the show going out, which kind of always happens, that George Murphy has stepped down from his duties as first team manager of London Seaward upon medical advisement. And the club wishes George all the best for the future. He had spells with Crawley and Reigate and had registered a 2-1 win against Chesham in the first league game in charge. Reserves manager Zahir Barra has been appointed interim manager to lead the first team for the moment. So of course, we wish George all the very best. Right, let's move on then from that to Manager of the Month. We had our first Manager of the Month awards for August. A reminder that these awards only concerned the opening two games of the season. We only had two in August. In the Premier Division, they're all tied in, so essentially the Tier 3 Manager of the Month. Abby Britton of Exeter City scoops the award. Exeter, of course, getting promoted from Tier 4 last season, goes straight in to the Southern Premier Division and notch up a couple of wins, get themselves up to the top, and she gets the award for August in Tier 3. And then in Tier 4, it was Tash Tesjul of Leafield Athletic. Scroll, there it is. So of Division 1, so that's the North, Midlands, South East and South West, it was Tash Tesjul of Leafield Athletic, who had a really good start to the season. You'll remember back end of last year, they really had kind of a great escape, some great 3-point wins right at the end of last season to get themselves safe in for another year, and they have jumped up towards the top end of Division 1 Midlands for the start of this season. So again, two Manager of the Months there. It was a difficult one to pick in August, really, because with so few fixtures, there were so many teams. I think I alluded to last week, 11 teams in Tier 4 won 2 out of 2, and you had to whittle those 11 down to 4 for the shortlist. So it was a very difficult one to do, actually. Right, there's two more pieces of news. One I will talk about when we get there, because it relates to Division 1 South West. The other piece of general news, you'll see on the board, if I move slightly out of the way, we've got a lot of blank space at the moment. That is because we've got essentially 2 FA Cup rounds and the the second round of the League Cup and Plate to fill in there. Now, FA Cup second qualifying round is this weekend, which means you would expect the draw for the third round qualifying of the Women's FA Cup to come out early next week. Now, the third round qualifying is important for us because that is where Tier 4 teams enter the competition. So keep an eye out on social media for the draw, which involves the Tier 4 sides. And then, of course, nobody is scheduled to play league games for FA Cup first round day. From memory, last year, I think there might have only been one or maybe none at all Tier 4 sides that were knocked out by lower league opposition. So it's only if you happen to draw each other, and it's still very regionalised at this stage. So we suspect that there won't be any fixtures on that day in the league. If there are, there might just be the odd one if two teams from the same league happen to be separate, both be knocked out, and then they can play a league fixture. On the note of league fixtures, kudos to the league. And it's not something I've said often, but my mantra on this show is I will praise where praise is due. One of the great things about my board is I can see issues 7 weeks in advance, or see potential fixes a long way in advance. And after the preliminary rounds and teams got knocked out and the draw was made, it was easy to see where teams therefore had a clean week. And there were postponed games earlier on this season from the determining round and what have you. And I looked at the board and I went, there's a gap, there's a gap. Oh, those two teams had a postponed game. I think it was Barnsley against Lincoln City from memory. That would be logical, is to slot that missing game into there. Lo and behold, you go on full time and it's been slotted in. So great work by the fixtures secretary there for the league. So, so news really this week. We've had the manager of the month. George Murphy has left London Seaward, and the FA Cup second round qualifying is this weekend. Keep your eye on social media at the beginning of next week for the draw, which I presume will come out at the beginning of next week, because the third, it's the 20th of October is the, it's the 13th of October is the third round qualifying. So they've only got a couple of weeks to get everything set if the draw comes out next week. So I would suspect that would be the case. So yes, keep your eye out. One thing to note from me is that there won't be the usual tables, results and tables, and maybe this draw as well, if it's on Monday, coming out from at W Football Chat at the start of next week, because Sunday travelling down to London, and then Monday I'm in London again for my anniversary. So not taking the laptop down with me, and won't have access to do all those graphics and what have you. So if you want the graphics and stuff pretty apt and accurately, go over to at Talking Woso, and they'll look after you over there for this week. Right, let's crack on because we do have plenty to go through. So Northern results, only 4 to talk about, but a superb win away at Derby County for Liverpool Feds, 6-0. They win that one, and 1-0 at half time. Courtney Willis right before half time gave them the lead, but in the second half they just ran riot. Ellie Fletcher 62 minutes, Courtney Willis again 65, Katie Anderson 67, Rosie Kinvig 75, and Seren Carrington in 90+1. So great win for Liverpool Feds. Forest slip up 1-1 at home to Burnley. Mel Johnson in the 31st minute had put Forest in front, but Rihanna Blades 10 minutes from time made it 1-1, and Burnley then held out for that draw. and that allowed other teams to close up the gap. Wolves winning by 4-0 against Hull City. 2 for Amber Hughes, 33rd and 67th minute. 1 for Beth Merrick in the 69th minute, and an own goal had opened the scoring in the 26th minute for Hull. And Rugby Borough winning away at West Brom by 5-0. 1 for Lily Greenslade in the 12th minute, and then a hat-trick for Yasmin Mosby. 28th, 49th and 90 plus 6, plus 1 for Angelina Nixon in the 66th minute. So in the table, and I've started putting the arrows on now for you as well. So Forest are still top, but their lead has been cut to a single point, ahead of both Rugby Borough and Wolves, who are up a place over Burnley. So they're just 1 point behind now. Liverpool Feds up 2 places to 5th on 10 points. West Brom and Derby County dropped down a place, and then the teams towards the bottom weren't playing. So it really shows, and we saw it with Newcastle last year as well, that just because you've got a professional or nearly professional, in Forest's case, they're mostly the way there, doesn't mean that you're going to go through and get 66 points from 22 games. Newcastle dropped 7 points last season, 2 draws and a loss. Teams will take points away from Forest, as we have seen there. So Forest need to make sure that they keep their mentality, and because particularly with fixtures coming up, spoiler alert, it's Rugby away on Wednesday. The opportunity is there for Forest to finish the month not even top of the table, and they really need to, particularly with the expectation that they will waltz the league. It's not going to be that easy, never is. Right, Southern Premier Division, 4 games to talk about here. Exeter City losing by 3-0 at home to Oxford United. Big win here for Oxford. Late goals as well. 2 for Phoebe Poole, 75th and 77th minute, and 1 for Adele Lindbeck in the 96th minute. Made it relatively comfortable for Oxford United in the end. Cheltenham Town holding #United is a great result for Cheltenham. 52nd minute, Doris Greenwood with the goal for Cheltenham Town. And it was an own goal in the 34th minute that was the goal for #United. Lewis and Gwalior United play out a 0-0 draw. 5 yellow cards in that game. And Milton Keynes Dons get their first point of the season with a 3-3 draw with Billericay Town. Sydney Wotton scored 2 in 3 minutes for MK Dons in the first half, 28th and 30th minute, with Annalise Jakovides getting 15 minutes from time for them as well. Billericay Town, no times on these goals, but Nia Evans, Bonnie Horwood and Valentine Percy with the goals for Billericay Town. So MK Dons get their first points of the season. Ipswich Town, then, they go top of the table without even playing a game, because Exeter City losing by 3-0 has dropped their goal difference down below Ipswich Town's, and they are one of 4 teams now on 10 points at the top. #United in 3rd, Oxford United in 4th. Take 3rd on the basis that they have scored 11 goals to Oxford's 10. But at this point in the season, we're not going to worry too much about that. Watford dropped down to 5th. But you can see just how tight the table is in the Southern Premier Division, because you've got 4 teams at the top on 10 points. Granted, Ipswich have played 1 game less than everybody else. Then you've got 3 teams behind them on 7 points. So we could be in for a really great season in the Southern Premier Division as they all battle out, of course, without the playoff now as well. So many teams battling out for that spot in the Championship, and we know about the big changes coming in the WSL and the Championship with the new ownership. Ownership's probably the wrong word, but the new governance of the leagues and everything around that. So it really is the time to try and get yourself in there. Down towards the bottom then, Lewis still in the relegation zone after that goalless draw with Gwalior United. That point for Gwalior United has lifted them above Plymouth Argyle. But Milton Keynes Dons, yes, the goal difference is atrocious, but they have now got their first point of the season. Let's move through then into Tier 4. There's not going to be a huge amount to discuss here because barely any games in Tier 4. Nothing at all in the North over the past week. Just 3 games in the Midlands as well. Lincoln United 2, Northampton Town 4. Kimberly Farrow with a hat-trick for Northampton Town in the second half was really what put Lincoln United to the sword. 1-1 at half-time they went in. Olivia Smith in the 32nd minute, Zoe Boot in the 43rd. Meant that they went in level, and then Lincoln, Kimberly Farrow got her first of the afternoon to make it 2-1 to Northampton. Lincoln United equalised again through Smith in the 55th minute, so 2-2 with 22 minutes to go when Farrow put Northampton in the lead again, and then got another one 7 minutes later to make it 4-2. Loughborough Lightning 4, Worcester City 0. Loughborough Lightning continuing their perfect start to the season. Kaylee Hines in the 26th minute, Fern Powell in the 61st, Zinnia Delgin in the 75th, and Poppy Wright in the 93rd minute for Loughborough Lightning. Yet another clean sheet for them. And Peterborough United hot on Loughborough's tails, 5-2. Beating Sutton Coldfield Town, although Sutton Coldfield Town took the lead in this one through Emily Hornsby in the 29th minute. Keir Perkins equalising for Peterborough United in the 39th minute. Sutton Coldfield Town take the lead again right at the start of the second half in the 46th minute through Olivia Woolston before Peterborough United decided, no, we're having the 3 points here. Megan Lawler in the 56th, Lauren Wilshaw in the 68th, Keir Perkins again in the 75th, and Frankie Pym in the 90th minute made it 5-2. What that means for the Midlands table, the only movement is Barnsley Women's going ahead of Lincoln United. Similar situation to in the South. Although Barnsley Women's haven't played, Lincoln United's goal difference has now dropped them below Barnsley. So Lincoln United dropped down to 9th, Barnsley Women's move up to 8th. At the top, it was wins for the top 3, so it's all still the same. Loughborough Lightning, Peterborough United, 100% records continue. Northampton Town still 3 points behind them in 3rd, and then Sutton Coldfield Town are in 5th. They lost, of course. Leaford Athletic didn't play in the league, neither did Notts County or Solihull Moors, and then Lincoln City didn't play. Worcester City lost, but not by a big enough margin to catch up to Lincoln City at the bottom of the table. As I said, no games at all in the North. Everybody was involved in Cup and Plate preliminary rounds. We'll get onto those in a bit. So let's move through then to South East, where there was only 2 games. Cambridge United thrashing Ashford Town by 6-0. One for Eva Hubbard, one for Isabella Simmons, and one for Kelsey Smith, along with a hat-trick for Alicia Stockcho Down. Although, if you go on to full time, makes out that she scored 5 because of the joys of full time. So that will need sorting, or it will completely mess up the stats come the end of the season for the awards. I'm keeping my own stats record this season, and where there are missing goals or things that aren't quite right on full time, I'm going and seeking that out myself. So I've got a record as well of who scored what in each game. And then the other game in South East, Queen's Park Rangers 2, London Seaward 0. Joanna Blodgett with the opening goal, with the only goal that's recorded on full time for Queen's Park Rangers. The other one was, let me try and remember from when I did my sheet, Ashley Goddard was the other one who scored for Queen's Park Rangers, but that's not been put on full time. So not a huge amount difference. Well, I say not a huge amount to talk about in the table. Cambridge United have jumped up 3 places with their victory over Ashford Town. They are now up to 4th on 9 points. But all those teams below them, Chatham Town, AFC Sudbury and Dulwich Hamlet, who they've overtaken, have all now got a game in hand. Queen's Park Rangers, their victory over London Seaward means that they go out of the relegation zone. London Seaward go in it. On goal difference. Cheshire United now drop down to 10th on the borderline, but they have a game in hand over Queen's Park Rangers as well. And then Southwest results, there's just one. Swindon Town 6, Maidenhead United 0. Good win for Swindon Town. 6 different scorers for them as well. Jess Graham in the 17th minute. Katie Sherwood in the 62nd. Oh, sorry, Poppy Dearlove in the 60th. Then Katie Sherwood in the 62nd. Holly Essen in the 74th. Annabelle Colston in the 87th. And Taylor McDonald in the 90th. So 6 different scorers for Swindon Town. Means they go top, although AFC Bournemouth haven't played. So Swindon Town stay perfect, 5 from 5. AFC Bournemouth are still perfect but didn't play in the league this weekend. And this is where we get to the other point of news. I emailed the league yesterday and asked what is the situation with that Keynsham Town Southampton women's game that was abandoned on 82 minutes because of the big thunderstorm and lightning strikes that they were having over there. But it was all put on full time as 5-0 to Keynsham, which was the time, which was the score at the time. Normally, well, from last year, it took a few weeks, didn't it, for board decisions to come through. So I contacted the league and I said, do we know what the situation with this game is going to be? Because it's still showing on full time as 5-0. And I was looking at full time at the time. As I'm looking at full time, I see it change from 5-0 to abandoned. And then I get an email back 2 minutes later that says it's now showing as abandoned, like within 5 minutes of my original email. So because it's now showing as abandoned, there is a big shake-up in Division 1 Southwest. Keynsham Town have dropped from 5th down to 10th because essentially the 3 points that was on the system from them winning 5-0 at the time has been taken away from them. So they dropped from 5 down to 10th. Southampton women stay in 12th, but they've now only played 1 game, not 2. So that game will have to be replayed at another time. Southampton women's, because of their delayed start to the season and then being in the preliminary round of the cup, and then that game getting postponed and pushed back, and then it got, if you remember, it was off because of the weather as well, so then it got pushed again. Already at this point in the season, there are 4 games for Southampton women's that need to be put in the system. So it's going to be a busy second half of the season for Southampton women's, you feel, because they've got a lot of ground to make up already. But that's the other piece of news that we needed to go through. So there's been a shake-up in the Division Southwest table. Right, let's have a look then at the Cup preliminary round. Yeah, we're going to start with the Cup preliminary round. So this was the round that got 36 teams in the Cup down to 32, because we had to be down to 32. So then you could go 16, 8, 4, 2. You can't do it with 36 because you'd end up with 18 and then 9 teams left. And then what do you do? So in the southern section, Plymouth Argyle 3, London Bees 0. Georgia Wilson in the 13th and the 40th minute, Charlotte Whitmore in the 36th minute. So Plymouth Argyle getting all their scoring done in the first half. And Southampton women's, after you'll remember last week, that 95th minute winner against Bournemouth Sports to put them into the cup competition, they then had to host Moneyfields, and Moneyfields win the game by 3 goals to 0, although only 1 goal has been put on the system to Brittany Gill in the 59th minute. But Moneyfields winning by 3 goals to 0. Then in the northern half of the draw, Stourbridge 1, Middlesbrough 4. Lizzie Bennett-Steele with the only goal for Stourbridge in the 35th minute. Middlesbrough with 2 for Lauren Robson, 1 for Jessica Met and 1 for Abby Towers, which, yes, okay, it's only 1 game, but it shows what a team at the top of Tier 4 can play like against a team towards the bottom of Tier 3. I still maintain, I think that we are seeing these big gaps in the league. We're seeing, particularly in Tier 3, these teams that are really going for it for the top 2 tiers and the teams down towards the bottom that aren't. And again, in Tier 4, there are teams that are getting this backing, and we're seeing them push towards the top. And I think if you were to put roughly the bottom third half of a Tier 3 league and the top third of a Tier 4 league together, you'd have a lot of very competitive games. Middlesbrough winning by 4-1 against Stourbridge, and Huddersfield Town beating York City by 3-1. Ocean Rowlandson with the opening goal for York City, 5 minutes in that goal. Rebecca Beresford, 68th minute. Ashley Trippick in the 94th minute for Huddersfield Town, and an own goal in the 14th minute as well for Huddersfield Town. So they go through into the Cup first round draw, which has been made, and the first round of the Cup and Plate competitions are next week on the 29th of September. So I think, well, I know we'll be looking at it next week, but yeah, we've got a lot of cup action. There's barely any league next weekend because basically everybody, I think there's 15 teams, if my memory serves me right from when I did the maths yesterday, 15 teams out of 72 that aren't going to be in cup action next weekend, but they are split so much across the leagues that I think we've got like 2 league games. I will check. We've got London Bees against AFC Sudbury in South East. We've got Lincoln City against Barnsley Women's in the Midlands, and as it stands at the moment, those are the only 2 games taking place in the league next weekend. It is primarily cup, so we've got plenty of cup to look forward to next weekend. Right, plate. Let me just move my face out of the way. So in the plate results, then you'll see there's plenty to go on. 12 games in total, because we had a couple of teams withdraw, which was apparently due to international call-ups for Sheffield United and Arsenal. Bournemouth beating Portishead Town by 8-0. A hat-trick for Chloe Gilroy, 2 for Jenna Markham, and then 1 each for Abby Jones, Katie James and Erin Bloomfield. So Bournemouth safely through into the plate first round. AFC Fylde against Chorley, 2-1 Fylde winning this one. Isabel Binks in the 13th minute, Abby Duffel in the 63rd, Nicola Worthington with the only goal for Chorley in the second half. Great result, Chesham United 3, Tottenham Hotspur Academy 2. I make no secret on this show that I was very much rooting for the league sides against the PGA sides in this one. And Chesham, 2 goals in the first 10 minutes. Gemma Fraser in the 6th, Kiana Fryer in the 9th, Gemma Fraser then in the 67th minute getting a 3rd for Chesham. Tottenham Hotspur Academy, Persis Oteng with 2 goals, but not enough, and Chesham United progress. Crystal Palace Academy 1, Southampton Academy 4. So it's Southampton that progress. Keynsham Town 4, Bristol Rovers 1. According to Full Time, and I admit I have not checked this out, because when I came to doing all my stats are based on league only, as you would expect. According to Full Time, Keynsham Town scored twice in the first minute, which is incredibly impressive, particularly given that by the time the first goal goes in and everybody has set themselves again and, you know, sorted out the going back into the formation, everything like that, you'd have thought you'd have been in the second minute at the very least. But apparently it was 2 in the first minute. I'm not too sure about that one. Maybe that's just a quirk of Full Time, or maybe it was 2 in the first minute. Sorry, no, 3 in the... Okay, it was definitely a thing of a glitch in Full Time, because there's no way they scored 3 goals in the first minute. But Beatrice Cretis, Chiara Lundy, Vicky Vipond and Naomi Clipson in the 17th, I do believe, for Keynsham Town. Megan Jarvis in the 80th minute with the only goal for Bristol Rovers. Norton and Stockton Ancients 5, Doncaster Rovers 3. They needed extra time in this one, and Bianca Owens, I mean, talk about getting late goals. So Doncaster Rovers goals: Ruby Barnes, Jasmine Saxton and Jessica Tugby-Andrew, all in normal time. Bianca Owens, 69th minute, 78th minute and the 89th minute. So it sounds as though, I mean, there's no times on Doncaster's goals, but it sounds as though that was a really late equaliser. And then in the second added minute of the first part of extra time, Annie Mitchell put Norton Stockton Ancients in front. And then in the 20th minute of extra time, Bianca Owens made it 5-3. So 4 goals for Bianca Owens as Norton Stockton Ancients get through to the first round of the plate. Norwich City 1, Brighton Hove Albion Academy 0. Hope Strauss with the goal for Andy Cook's side to put them into the first round. Sunderland Academy 2, Liverpool Academy 4, Actonians 3, Abingdon United 0. Ikram Mohammed in the 25th and the 60th minute for Actonians, as well as Kyrie McKenzie in the 27th minute. So 3-0 Actonians, relatively comfortable for them. Boldmere St Michael's 9, Lincoln City 1. Lincoln City continue to struggle. Becky Kendall with their only goal. But 1 each for Rhiannon Travers, Jade Formerston, Annie Ackroyd and Latea Bojang for Boldmere St Michael's, as well as a hat-trick for Janelle Stracker and 2 for Tilly Astel. Means it was a very comfortable win for Boldmere St Michael's. And what you could say is most concerning there for Lincoln City, as well as being kind of convincingly knocked out of the plate, is the fact that if you convert that back to the league, Boldmere St Michael's are currently 10th in the league and only just above the relegation zone, and they put 9 past Lincoln City. So a bit of a concern there for Lincoln, I would say. Chelsea Academy 1, Bristol City Academy 2, and then finally Leaford Athletic 1, Stockport County 2 after extra time. Leaford Athletic just got it to extra time. Jessica Brady had put Stockport County in front on the 70th minute after coming off the bench just 4 minutes before that. But then Hayley Crackle in the 95th minute, just before the end of the game, equalised for Leaford Athletic, sent it to extra time. Now, what didn't help Leafield is then Crackle got her second yellow card 4 minutes in to extra time, so they went down to 10, but that was after Maria Figueiredo had already put Stockport County back in front at 2-1, and that is how it stayed. So again, we've had the draw for the cup and plate. In terms of the plate competition, there is only one PGA side guaranteed in round 2 because Manchester United are playing Leicester City. The other PGA sides remaining, there are 7 left. 2 of them are playing each other. The other 5 are all playing FAWNL sides. So, I mean, from my point of view, I'm hoping that we only have 1 team left in the second round from the PGA. If I just bring up from my memory where the teams in the PGA are playing. So it's Cambridge United against Bristol City. It's Bournemouth Sports taking on Charlton Athletic. Ashford Town take on Southampton. Lincoln United against Aston Villa and Stockport County against Liverpool. So there are some good PGA sides in there. We'll see next week how they get on. Right, let's then go back. We've got a lot to go through in terms of fixtures, and I don't want a particularly long show that will bore you all for ages. So, Northern Premier Division this weekend: Burnley against West Brom, 4th against 6th. Hull City down in 9th host Nottingham Forest, who are top of the table. Liverpool Feds against Sporting Cowser, 5th against 12th. Rugby Borough against Derby County, 2nd against 7th. Stoke City hosting Wolverhampton Wanderers, that's 8th against 3rd. And Halifax take on Stourbridge, 10th against 11th. Great opportunity for both of those sides to get a first win of the season. Midweek, all the midweek games in the Northern Premier Division are on Wednesday. Of course, when I'm talking about these midweek games, take the table on the right-hand side with a little bit of a pinch of salt, because they will change over the course of the weekend. So looking at these midweek games then, so of course these are local games because of the don't travel too far midweek situation. So Derby County against Stoke City, two teams in mid-table at the moment. Halifax against Hull City. So it's a really big week for Halifax really to have Stourbridge and then Hull City, the team below them and the team directly above them. Halifax could really change their early season form over the next few days. Liverpool Feds against Burnley, great one to see, probably where Liverpool Feds really are at. 3 wins and a draw so far. They're mixing it up with the big four at the top. Is that true form without being harsh to Liverpool Feds, or is that more in terms of playing slightly easier sides? A draw with West Brom on opening day. West Brom are now mid-table. 3-1 defeat away to Rugby shows that Liverpool Feds are not to be messed with. Narrow victory over Halifax, good win away at Hull, huge win away at Derby. It's going to be a good test here at home to Burnley to see quite where Liverpool Feds, more data really on where Liverpool Feds are. Sporting Cows are at home to Wolverhampton Wanderers. That's going to be very tough for Sporting. West Bromwich Albion against Stourbridge. Again, Stourbridge, important week for them. And the clash of the top two, Rugby Borough against Nottingham Forest. Forest will really need to bounce back. Let's say if Rugby win this game, then you're in a situation where Forest might not be top come the end of September, particularly because we've got cup games next weekend. So it's going to be a really important one. I think it will give other teams, Burnley get a draw. If Rugby Borough then go and get a win, that's going to give a huge amount of confidence to Rugby, to Burnley and to Wolves, even though Forest comfortably beat Wolves. They're only 1 point clear. So it could be a big week of change there in the Northern Premier Division. In the South then this weekend, AFC Wimbledon against Exeter City. So Wimbledon starting to drop back down the table a little bit, though they do have a game in hand on a few above them. Exeter City in second, of course. Billericay Town against Plymouth Argyle, two teams in the bottom half. Gwalior United against Ipswich Town, ninth against first. So could be tough for Gwalior, but Ipswich, a long way to travel across the entire width of the country. Watford against Cheltenham Town, fifth against sixth. Hashtag United against MK Dons, third against 12th. And Oxford United against Lewis is fourth against 11th. And then if we go to midweek, it's not quite as simple in the Southern Premier Division. Exeter City against Plymouth isn't happening this week. So Billericay Town against Ipswich Town is on Wednesday, as is Hashtag United against Lewis and MK Dons against Oxford. Then on Thursday, Cheltenham Town against Gwalior United and Watford against AFC Wimbledon on Thursday. So two games later on in the week. But in terms of significant games, I mean, it's going to be difficult. You've got MK Dons are bottom and they're against Oxford, who are in the top four. Lewis are second bottom and Hashtag a third. Billericay are mid-table, but Ipswich are flying high. It's the difficult fixtures for the teams at the bottom to pick points at. We haven't got huge weeks like Halifax have got in the north that I've just alluded to there. Into the Midlands then, as we go into Tier 4. Lincoln City against Boldmere St Michael's. Now this is a repeat but flipped of that game we just spoke about, that 9-1 win for Boldmere St Michael's. That was in Boldmere, this one's in Lincoln. Gainsborough. So Boldmere St Michael's travelling then to Lincoln City. Northampton Town against Loughborough Lightning. So that's first against third. Third against first in Division 1 Midlands. Sutton Coldfield Town against Barnsley Women's is fifth against eighth. Worcester City against Notts County, 11th against sixth. Leaford Athletic against Lincoln United, fourth against ninth. And Solihull Moors against Peterborough United is seventh against second. The key is really in midweek. Thursday night, we'll get to it at the end, but Sutton Coldfield Town against Northampton Town, as it stands at the minute, fifth against third. Solihull Moors against Worcester City, seventh against 11th. Barnsley Women's take on Notts County, eighth against sixth. Boldmere St Michael's against Leafield Athletic is 10th against fourth. And then Lincoln City against Lincoln United, 12th against 9th. And then the big one, Peterborough United hosting Loughborough Lightning, 2nd against 1st. If it hasn't over the course of the weekend, at least one 100% record will go on Thursday night as Peterborough United host Loughborough Lightning. That is a huge game at the top of Division 1 Midlands. But elsewhere, yeah, I mean, it's a huge week for Loughborough Lightning. Northampton Town at the weekend and then Peterborough United, the two teams that it looks at the moment. I mean, you go down to 5th place, Sutton Coldfield Town are already 9 points behind these two. Now, Leaford Athletic have got a game in hand, so they can get up level with Northampton Town. So really, even at this early stage, you're looking at it and going, probably going to be those top 4. And Loughborough are playing 2 of them in the space of 5 days. So I think we're going to see a lot here about what Loughborough Lightning are really about. If you think that they have the opportunity to put themselves 6 points clear of Northampton by beating them at the weekend, and then 3 points clear of Peterborough United, with what is already a better goal difference that would only extend, it could be a really important week for Loughborough Lightning. In the North, then, we are back in action in in Division 1 North. AFC FAWNL against Norton and Stockton Ancients, 7th against 12th. Norton Stockton Ancients yet to win this season. Chorley against Cheadle Stingers, 3rd against 2nd. Huge game there. And both will be hoping that Huddersfield Town can do them the business away at Middlesbrough to put one of them top of the table. Doncaster Rovers Bells against Stockport County is 6th against 9th. Leeds United against Durham Sestra is 8th against 4th. And York City against Barnsley, 10th against 11th. Barnsley can put themselves out of the relegation zone with a win. And in fact, that table is so tight that if other results were to go their way, Barnsley could put themselves up as high as 7th. With a victory against York City. In terms of midweek, 4 games on Wednesday. AFC FAWNL against Chorley, Leeds United against Doncaster Rovers Bells, Middlesbrough take on York City, and Stockport County have Cheadle Stingers. And then on Thursday, Huddersfield against Barnsley, Norton Stockton Ancients against Durham Sestra. Into South East then. And again, the table a bit tighter than some of the others, but Norwich City top of the table. They're away at Chesham United, who are down in 10th. Cambridge United are 4th. They will look to back up that big 6-0 win away at Ashford with a home win against Dulwich Hamlet, who are 7th. London Bees in 8th take on Actonians, who are 3rd. London Seaward, who are 11th, have Ashford Town, who are 12th. So the bottom 2 coming up against each other. So Chesham United will be in the bottom 2 at the end of the weekend if London Seaward get anything out of that game and Chesham lose to Norwich. Or if Ashford win, then Chesham United will stay the right side of the relegation line, but it will just close up somewhat. Real Bedford against AFC Sudbury is 2nd against 6th. Real Bedford will be looking to keep the pressure up on Norwich City. And Chatham Town against Queen's Park Rangers, 5th against 9th. In midweek, 1 game on Tuesday, AFC Sudbury against Norwich City. So maybe Norwich will look to race into a lead against Chesham United and then rest some players for Tuesday night. Then 4 on Wednesday, Actonians in 3rd against Chesham in 10th. Chatham Town against Dulwich Hamlet, 5th against 7th. Queen's Park Rangers against Ashford Town, 9th against 12th. So a huge week for Ashford, playing the side in 11th and then the side in 9th. Opportunity for them to get their season going. The flip side, of course, is that if you end up with London Seaward on 6 points and then Queen's Park Rangers on 7 points, already you're running out of teams that you can catch comfortably. Real Bedford against Cambridge United is 2nd against 4th. That's going to be a big game on Wednesday night. And then London Bees against London Seaward on Thursday, 8th against 11th. Finally then, in Division 1 South West, Abingdon United taking on AFC Bournemouth. Bournemouth will be looking to keep pace with Swindon Town. They won't be worried yet because they've got that game in hand. But they'll be looking to win away at 5th place Abingdon United. Bournemouth Sports yet to win this season against Keynsham Town. Now yet to win this season after that game against Southampton's gone down as abandoned. So they are 10th and 11th, both with just 1 point so far this season. Bridgewater United against Moneyfields is 8th against 3rd. Bristol Rovers against Maidenhead United, that is 4th against 9th. Portishead Town against Southampton Women's is 7th against 12th. And Worthing against Swindon Town 6th against 1st. Worthing again, they're down in mid-table, they're 6th, but they've only played 2 games. So, if you were to scale that up, then they could be closer than they are. But Worthing perhaps not having as good a time of it as they did in South East. But they've got 3 years in South West now, so they'll have to kind of deal with it. And then in South West in midweek, 3 games Wednesday, 3 games Thursday. The 2 Bournemouths, Bournemouth Sports and AFC Bournemouth, meet on Wednesday. So that's currently 11th against 2nd. Swindon Town host Abingdon, 1st against 5th. And Worthing take on Moneyfields, 6th against 3rd. And then on Thursday, Bridgewater United in 8th against Portishead Town in 7th. Keynsham Town against Bristol Rovers is 10th against 4th. And Southampton Women's against Maidenhead United is 12th against 9th. And that will cover what's happening over the next 7 days in the FAWNL. I am still debating, so by all means, get in touch with me on social media at WFootballChat. If I move next week's show to Friday, just so that those Thursday games have happened. So rather than me putting a show out at 6 o'clock that says, here's the situation, and then 3 hours later, everything's out of date, particularly because it's Cup next weekend. If I do it on Friday, then the league tables and everything are up to date for another week. Whereas if I do it on Thursday, they're up to date for 3 hours. So I suspect I might do Friday, but at WFootballChat is the place to get all of the information from. We've still had a not great week social media wise. We've changed from just being called Nottingham to then being Notts Forest, to then it changing to Nottingham Forest. The one thing I don't get with those, and that's the biggest thing I think, is what they're calling the teams, but why not just make the team fit longer? That's my parting thought for the week. I'm not getting frustrated, that's the wrong word, but it's not a good use of my time, and you don't really want to sit there and listen just me moan about the social media all week, every week, because what's it going to change? So that'll do it for this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat. Thank you very much for watching and or listening to this week's episode. Don't forget, if you want to get in touch with the show, you've got www.womensfootballchat.wordpress.com, or you've got at WFootballChat on X / Twitter / Elon Musk's one. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You can turn on notifications as well, then you'll never miss a show when it goes live, usually at Thursdays at 6 p.m, unless things have all started to go wrong for me and it takes ages to upload. But thank you very much for watching and or listening to this week's episode of the Women's Football Chat, and goodbye.